Now we play a round called There's No Super Injunction on Our Ryan Gags. This game involves Greg, Milton and Sean, so if you could make your way to the performance area, please. This round is a stand-up challenge. I launch the wheel of news, and wherever it chooses to stop, one of our performers will step forward and talk about that subject. The winner is whoever I think is the funniest. OK, here we go. The first subject is... trust. Who wants to come in on that? Sean.
I get proud. I get guilty when I'm with a friend and he loses money in his house. This happened to me recently. My friend lost a £5. I thought, does he think? Does he think I've taken his £5? Is this what's happening? He thinks I've taken... I want to say I haven't taken his £5, but I don't want him to think that I'm guilty. And then I start thinking, hang on, have I taken his £5? Maybe I've taken his £5. Maybe I've put his £5 in my pocket. I want to check my pocket. I can't check my pocket. If he sees me checking my pocket, he's going to think I've nicked his £5. I want to go and hide and check my pocket. I can't hide and check my pocket. If I hide and check my pocket, he's definitely going to think I've nicked his £5. So I went into the bathroom. I found his £5. I couldn't go and give it to him. It would have looked like I got guilty, decided to give it back. I can't just leave it there. He's seen me go in. It's going to look like I planted it, so I just nicked it.
Well done, Sean. OK, let's spin the wheel again. Subject is family. Who wants to come in on that? Greg.
All of my family are obsessed by the ageing process. Every single generation of us are obsessed by it at the moment. I'll just share this with you before I talk about other family members, just so I can get it off my chest. I was visiting my parents last week, and an old family friend came up to us in the street and said to my mum, "Hello, Pauline, how are you?" She said, "I'm all right, thanks, Kath, how are you?" And then she looked up at me and she said, "Hello, Bob, how are you?" Bob is my dad. He is 75 years of age. All of us are obsessed with it. All of us are obsessed with ageing in our family. Even my nan. My nan is doing her best to hold off the years. She puts a pound of face cream on every single morning, you know, and there's not a face cream on the market that works, ladies and gentlemen. I know that because of my nan, because she's a lovely woman, but she's religiously applied this stuff, and with the best will in the world, her face is ruined. I said to her, "You've spent all that time and all that money, Gran, and your face is no better than Grandad's." And he's dead. He died in the war. He got shot in the face. With a cannon.
OK. That leaves you with Milton. Let's see what you've been after. Let's spin the wheel. And the subject is travel.
When I was young, my mum used to put food on a spoon and say, "There's a train coming, there's a train coming, there's a train coming." We'd always eat it because we knew that if we didn't, she wouldn't untie us from the railway line. I tried to get here by train today. They said, "Today there's a bus replacement service." So I gave them a tin of pineapple chunks. I said, "What's that?" I said, "That's my money replacement service." I didn't have any money because her friend nicked my £5. Thanks, that doesn't normally work. Anyway, I managed to borrow a car and I parked it up in Bus Lane. Last year I went on a ballooning holiday, put on 4 stone. The other day I bought one of those off-road vehicles, 3,000 quid, got it home, found out it was a canoe.
First subject is school. Who wants to come in on that? Diane.
A lot of my friends are starting to have kids now, and it always amazes me the amount of effort that some parents put into choosing a school for their kids. Because when I was younger, my parents were like, George Tomlinson's is a bit far away, isn't it? She'll only have to cross one road if she goes to St Peter's. That's settled then, St Peter's it is. Yeah, they've gotten high teenage pregnancies, but she probably won't get knocked over. Et momentum mori etwe, that was the Latin that was over the door at my school. It means knocked up but not knocked down. It's a rubbish school, my school, though. It's really rubbish. My domestic science class was about 45 minutes long, right? So they didn't have time to show us how to prepare and cook an apple pie from scratch, right? So to save time, to cut corners, they said, bring in some ready-made pastry and a tin of apples. all ready-made pastry and a tin of... I don't know why they didn't just have a class on how to buy an apple pie.
Thank you very much. OK, let's spin the wheel again. The subject is technology. Chris.
We really take technology for granted now. We live in an age of miracles, right? Not that you would know this, because we take everything just as it's owed to us. Wireless. You've got wireless, right? In your house, yes? Yeah. Some of the older people go, of course I've got a bloody wireless. How do you think I listen to the Archers? Keep it on permanently in case they declare war. I'm not getting caught out twice. I'm not. I don't mean wireless, I mean Wi-Fi, right? Wireless, right? When you first saw wireless wireless, you thought, look at that, look, that is the science fiction of my childhood available to me now in my adult years. Thank you, oh providential universe, to be alive at a time such as this is a privilege. And now within half an hour, you're going, work, you bastard! Half an hour is the time between miracle and basic human right. As we can say, we're pathetic. You can be sat in your front room watching Hole in the Wall, right, with your laptop there. Every piece of information you could possibly want in the universe is available to be beamed through the dust of your sitting room to right in front of your chops. That is a bona fide miracle. It goes down for 40 seconds, and we go, oh, my God! This is like living in a third world country. I wish I was dead.
Well done, Chris. Thank you very much. That leaves us with Mickey. Let's see what you've been left with. And the topic is fashion. OK, Mickey.
Bound to be, wasn't it? I've returned to the vest. Happened a couple of years ago. I was walking through Marx's to get me pants. You always go back to Marx's. And, they know. They look at you. They go, you come back and you try. You went the next, didn't you? Got flash. And I saw the vest. Packet of singlet vests. I thought, I'm having them. Put them in my basket. I covered them over like pornography. Got to the counter. I said to the woman, get them in the bag, love, get them in the bag. Got home, I shook one of these vests out. I thought, put it on. I thought, that is the answer. The wife came home. She said, what's all this with the vest? I said, I like them. I'm returned to the vest. She said, I don't mind, but only indoors. So for a couple of years, I've worn the vest, sort of in secret. But the other day, I'd had a couple of cans of beer and I wanted a couple more, so I got up to go out and my wife said, the vest. I said, no more. I refuse to live a lie. I'm standing up for vest wearers all over the world. And I marched off down the off here. I've got 2 cans of Stella Artois. Put one in my back pocket, cracked the other one open. And I walked back from the off in my vest. I made a discovery. You drink a can of Stella and wear a vest, you get a bit of space.
Well done there. Points to Leveson again. There you go. The first subject is parenting. Who wants to come in on that? Abba.
It's quite difficult being a parent. My daughter is she's 17 years old and she's evil, and she doesn't respect me. I don't know why. And this is an example. I came home early one day and I found her smoking on the sofa, and I went, my God, you don't even have the respect for me to smoke elsewhere. And she went, so? I went, right, you have to be 18 to buy cigarettes. Where did you get them from? I'm going to report that shopkeeper. Shouldn't have sold them to you because you're a child. And she was like, 17's not a child, yeah? When you're 17, you're supposed to do stuff wrong. Were you perfect when you were 17? I went, well, no, I wasn't. But when I was 17, I like to think I was quite responsible, because when I was 17, I was at home each and every night looking after you and your brother. And she's very, very moody as well. You know, like a lot of teenage girls, very worried about her body image. She came home one day, she was crying her eyes out, and I went, what's the matter? And she went, I hate my whole life. And I went, why? And she went, because I'm fat. And I went, well, yeah, you are. So, could you at least have the common decency to be jolly?
OK, let's spin the wheel again. The subject is nightclubs. Who wants to come in on that? Sean.
I don't go nightclubbing anymore. I can't do it. I never got on with bouncers. I mean, proper nightclub bouncers. You know the ones that look like a boiled egg on top of a stuffed bin bag. Sorry, Dara. But they ask the stupidest questions as well. Like once I was at a nightclub, it was 1:30 in the morning. I had a traffic cone on my head. He said, excuse me, mate, can you step to the side? Have you been drinking? A little bit. Of course I have, you idiot. It's a nightclub. It's 1:30 in the morning. What do you think these people are doing? Just walking past, going, oh, dubstep. Let's go and have a look what's going on in here. No. He's not letting me in. I try to become the nicest bloke I can be. I go, come, mate, please. You have a lovely head. You have a lovely head. If I knew you were going to be here, I would have brought some bread. We could have had some soldiers. Come on, please. We're honestly, I'm fine. Don't worry about that. It's just a hiccup with some pizza in it. It's fine. Don't worry. Honestly, it's come back. I understand you have a difficult job. I understand that. It's a difficult job. I take my hat off to you.
Thank you very much, John Walsh. OK, that leaves us with Stewart. Let's see what you've been at, Stewart. Topic is jobs.
Ever since my best friend became a mime, I haven't heard from him. Still has my leotard. At first, I didn't believe my father stole from his job as a lollipop man, but all the signs were there. I used to be a panto horse, but I quit while I was ahead. I worked in produce, which wasn't exactly rocket salad. I used to sell dining room chairs under the table. I worked in China repairing typewriters. I didn't like the job, but I met lots of characters. I worked in a sweatshop. It was so-so. I started a VD clinic from scratch. My topic is jobs. My work is over.
Very good. Thank you very much. Points there go to Anna and Sean. Now you can come back. There you go. First subject is alternative lifestyles. Who wants to come in that? Zoe.
Alternative lifestyles. A friend of mine actually recently bought me a book on feng shui. Feng shui. I was like, feng shui my arse. And by that, I don't mean move it further up my back to make my shoulders look better. You know, I know people do yoga to balance the body, and I can kind of see that, but to be honest with you, I can balance my own body beautifully with a pint in one hand and a pie in the other. And I take an all-or-nothing approach to alternative medicines. I think the test is, would you use it in an emergency, OK? Do you see many herbalist ambulances? That's what I'm asking. Yeah, got me. I've sawn my own arm off, have you? What you want to do there is wave a bit of sage over it. In fact, while I'm on it, don't get me wound up, I don't even think vegetarians should be allowed to squash their vegetarian food into meat-based products. You know the ones I'm talking about, the veggie burgers, the veggie bangers. I think, no, sorry, you made your choice. If you don't want the meat, you can't have the shapes.
Thank you, Richard. OK, let's spin the wheel again. The subject is fatherhood. Who wants to come in on that? Alan.
I'm a dad, and I can tell you already that child needs discipline. I'm a dad. I like being a dad. It's good fun being a dad, but I love mums as well. I'm a big fan of mums. My mum's one, and my wife's one, and lots of my friends are mums. And for a whole night, quite recently, I thought I might be a mum. I'm not. I'm a dad, but here's what happened. My wife went out for some drinks with some other mums, and I stayed in and had a really nice bath and a glass of wine. Yeah, I had a mum's night in. Brilliant night in as well, mums. I can totally see why it caught on amongst the mum community. It's great. It's much better than being out in a pub talking to idiots about nothing. I really enjoyed it. Quite disconcerting as well. I got out of the bath and just got the towel and twisted it around on the top of my head like that. Got up the next day and bought a little Citroen Zara Picasso. But I know I sound like a cliched dad when I say this, but genuinely, our little boy is properly gorgeous. He is. He's blonde and blue-eyed and really good-natured, and sometimes I'm just walking him round to the park, holding his little hand, and I'll just be swept away by how beautiful he is, and I'll just catch myself thinking, oh, my God, you are so gorgeous. If anything happens to your mum and she dies, we are going to look so attractive.
Well done, Alan. OK, which leaves us with Milton. Let's see what topic we have. It's entertainment.
I was watching Blue Peter the other day, who's a neighbour with really bad circulation. I said to him, Peter, why don't you get a pacemaker? He said, I can't even run, let alone keep up with someone. I was watching TV the other day, and I flipped over, and all I could see were the brown cushions on my sofa really close up. You have to be careful watching television. You think to yourself, that bloke's better looking than me, he's got a better car than me, and he's got a cat called Jess. My favourite film is the French film And. I think it was released over here as E.T. You have to admire people who go into the performing arts. They have to do exercises every single day for their future careers. Big issue. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Milton Jones. Point at the end round go to Alan and Milton. The first subject is the Olympics. Who wants to come in that? Any person?
Now, I don't know how you got on with getting tickets for the Olympics. There are still tickets for the Greco-Roman wrestling. Yeah, whoopee-doo. There aren't so many Romans in Britain anymore, are there? And those Greeks can't afford the tickets. And we will have forever our first GB football team. Yeah, it'll be the first time that Ryan Giggs, Ashley Cole and John Terry have got together since the last Miss World contest. But if you haven't got any tickets, go and see the Olympic road race cycling, right? It's free, yeah? But it's not the same as proper road cycling. Never in the Olympics do you see somebody having to go off into a ditch because there's a lorry turning left. Never do you see somebody go over the handlebars because some idiot in his car has opened the door without looking in his side mirror. Never do you see somebody fall off their bike because a car has screamed past and somebody has whined down the window and shouted, "Boo!" Although that may happen when the Olympics come to Hackney in 2012.
Thank you very much, Andy Parsons. OK, let's spin the wheel again. The subject is food. Who wants to talk about that? Milton.
I went for an Italian recently. Well, he was annoying me. Incredible to think, isn't it, that every single Scotsman started off as a Scotch egg. Cold and gingery. I was grilling some tomatoes the other day, saying, "Who are you? Where'd you come from?" I almost got into the SAS. I failed on one question. They said, right, imagine the scenario. Terrorists have taken hostages. They're holding them in an embassy. What are your preferred tactics? I said, I like the orange ones. I was in the park the other day watching an old man feed the birds, and after a while I thought to myself, I wonder how long he's been dead. When the boys in the playground found out that I had a potentially fatal allergy to peanuts, they used to shove me up against a wall and make me play Russian roulette with a bag of Revels. That's all. Good night.
That leaves us with Mickey. Let's see what you've been left with. Let's spin the wheel. The topic is culture.
Thank you. I know you're thinking this man doesn't enjoy culture. Well, you're right, I hate it. No, I am an intellectual. I know I left school with nothing, but I did go to university later on when I got a degree when I was 29. It was tough, speaking up during the lecture, knowing everyone's thinking, blimey, the window cleaner's keen, isn't he? But when I came out, when I got the degree, I thought, that's it, I'll be interested in things now, won't I? It's all going to be fine. So I thought I'll go back to the art galleries again. Went into the art gallery. I don't like art galleries. I'm never quite sure how long you're supposed to look at the pictures for. It should give you a bit of guidance, you know, because I can crack on in a gallery, I really can. 3 or 4 minutes. Boss, that's not bad, that's not bad, that's not bad. Just mess that up. I can be over by the door in about 5 minutes. The wife's crying at a Matisse. Come on, love, there's a Wetherspoons round the corner. But the other thing is, you've got to enjoy looking at other cities, apparently. The city break, does it actually exist, the city break? Is it a real thing? Went with the wife to Prague the other week, and she said, after a couple of days, she said, are you enjoying yourself? I said, yeah, I've just paid 15 quid for 2 cups of coffee. But at least we've got that bridge to walk over again, haven't we? Because I've never done that before. Or maybe we could go to the castle. Thank
you very much. Point at the end of that round, Andy and Mickey. Here we go. The first subject is the economy. Who wants to come in on that? Andy Parsons.
Now, the economy not going very well, is it? So apparently a lot of people are having to shop in cheaper supermarkets. And you can understand why Waitrose might want to consider their price structure. I was in there recently, £8 for a chicken. And what's their slogan? Never knowingly undersold. Where do they do their price comparisons? A lot of supermarkets, you can get 2 chickens for 2 quid. That is 8 chickens for £8. And it might not be the same quality, but let's face it, you could chuck 6 chickens away, you'd still be a chicken up. I've done the maths for you there, ladies and gentlemen. Waitrose have introduced a new own-brand range, Essential. I'll bet you would like to know what Waitrose regard as essential. Cherry cheesecake, roast vegetable couscous, apple yum-yum. Essential. Oh, I was in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. I only had the bare essentials. Mixed leaf salad, Italian mozzarella, and a vanilla candle. Praise the Lord.
Thank you very much. OK, let's spin the wheel again. And the subject is the older generation. What's going on? Nathan.
Cool. Older generation. I've got a very eccentric grandma. Recently, she's been starting to get involved in my love life, right? Obviously, not too involved, obviously. She's not in my bedroom going, go on, Nathan, that's my boy! No, but whenever I go to my grandma's house, she's like, Nathan, you have a girlfriend? You have a girlfriend? Right? But she's very old school in that she doesn't realise the world we live in now is very multicultural. You know, my grandma, she's like, Nathan, we have a girlfriend. Make sure, West Indian. Don't bring no white girl in my house. And that's a problem, because I'm not going to lie. I like black girls, I like white girls, you know? I don't care about skin colour. As far as I'm concerned, if you got a vagina and a Nando's loyalty card, you're cool. I don't care about skin and colour, you know? I like black girls, I like white girls. Like I always say, chocolate is delicious, tasty and sweet. But milk is good for you. I said that to my grandma and she just went, not when you're lactose intolerant.
Thank you very much. That leaves us with Stewart. Let's see what topic you've been left with. Let's spin the wheel. And the topic is family.
I heard that my sister's into bestiality. I'll be a monkey's uncle. Through no fault of his own, my uncle crashed his car into a lemon tree. He's still bitter and twisted. My other uncle, who's missing an arm, hates the way I mock him. Doesn't like when I show off. My older brother's an expert on erectile dysfunction. He's now semi-retired. I don't like the way my kids are always quick to blame other people. They get that from their mom. I get my tendency to gouge from my mom. I got my father's eyes. When I first heard that my real parents were budgies, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror.
Thank you very much, well done. Point to Stewart Francis there. Everyone come back. Thank you very much. Okay. The first subject is kids. Who wants to come in last? Ava.
What kids want to wear these days is kind of shocking and scary. As a parent of a teenage daughter, I have to always be vigilant. And my daughter was trying to sneak out one day and she had this long coat on. It was done all the way up to the top. And women, we know what that means, right? The ones laughing are slags, because essentially what that means is, it means you're going out half naked, you don't want your mum to see your outfit. So I went, hold it, lady, open the coat, and she opened it. I went, there's no way in hell you're leaving my house dressed like that, because she'd squeezed herself into this lycra mini dress, and it was all cleavagey, and it had cut-out bits down the side. I was like, did I say you could borrow that? But you have to be vigilant, and you have to warn your kids about the dangers out there. And I warned my daughter, and she turns around to me and she goes, I'm not scared of no weirdo pedo, because I've read I'm more likely to be sexually abused at home anyway. Which is ridiculous, because for a start, I don't find that girl attractive at all.
Thank you very much, Ava. OK, let's spin the wheel again. And the subject is health. Who wants to come in on that? Miles.
OK, well, health. I have recent experience of the medical profession. My wife and I, we have a little baby, and we had a home birth. If you mention the idea even of a home birth to people of an older generation, they're always instantly terrified, but that's just a generational thing, like racism and not indicating on roundabouts. They don't realise there's another way forward. But I myself, I have to say, quite nervy about the idea. On the one hand, I thought, is our sitting room really the safest place for us to have a newborn child, right? On the other hand, I did think it would be an excellent opportunity for us to get some new carpets. Perhaps take advantage of our extremely comprehensive home and contents policy. I waited till the head was showing. You've got to be sensitive. And then I tiptoed into the next room and got straight onto the phone to our insurance people. You know, I was excited. I mean, I was giving all the measurements. I'd done them months ago. But they were, you know, a lot of... questions. They asked a lot of questions, the insurance people. They wanted to know why my wife had attempted to give birth in every room in the house.
Thank you very much. OK, that leaves us with Carl. Let's see what you've been led with. Let's spin the wheel. The subject is marriage. Away you go.
Right. I recently got married, and it's actually all right. People moan about it. I think it's quite good. The only downside I've found is I now get extra guilty when I mess up, which I didn't know about. But I learnt this in a baptism of fire when 2 weeks after we got married, I accidentally punched my wife in the face. Now, it sounds worse than it is. I'm not making light of domestic violence. She went to make me a cup of tea, right? Normal sort of stuff. It was her round, right? And I was sitting in the front room watching TV, and I had a fight with a fly. Do you know when a fly is getting around your head and you can't get it? That happened for 5 minutes. She then came back with the teas, and it disappeared. So I thought, I'm not going to tell her. Let's just get on and drink these teas, right? We give it like 5 minutes to cool. Average tea cooling time, right? These teas are ready to go. She leans for her first sip, but I don't see that, because half a second before she leans, I spot that fly again. Right? And he's coming from the corner of the room, so this time I know what I'm going to do. I'm not even going to look at him. I know he's there, right? I'm going to play it cool. And so I carry on watching the TV. When he gets about there, I'm just going to go, Pshah, right? I'm in the zone. I'm so in the zone, I don't see my wife lean into the flight path, right? She leans for her first sip of tea, and out of nowhere, I go, I punch her clean on the cheek, right? It's clean as she goes flying onto the sofa. What must I look like to her? We've been married 2 weeks. Right? She's made me a lovely cup of tea, and it looks like I've just punched her in the chops. Right? She's crying on the sofa. I started crying. I've just punched my new wife. And it took me like 5 minutes to calm her down and explain about the fly. And to this day, I just can't believe she bought it.
Well, the ball's there for Anna and Miles. Let's spin the wheel. The first subject is fatherhood. Who wants to come in on that? Greg.
Yeah, my father has taken fatherhood in a very strange direction in the last few years. And it started about 3 years ago at Christmas when he announced to me, and this is a quote, and all of what I'm about to tell you is entirely real. This happened. He said to me, "Son, I am 72. I said, "I'm aware of that." He said, "Yes. I've decided from now on I shall start behaving exactly as I see fit." And I said, "Well, I would welcome that." He said, "I'm glad you agree, because when you come home for Christmas, you'll discover this year that I am wearing a Christmas outfit." I went, "All right, then." I got home, and true to his word, he was wearing a Christmas outfit. I swear to you, it was one giant pair of white underpants that stretched from his knees to just below his nipples, and a novelty Santa hat with a flashing bulb on the end. And he came downstairs, and this is a quote, "Do you like?" I said, "I find it a bit challenging." He said, "I don't give a shit what you think." And he went off to eat some cheese. This is where it gets weird. I went out that night with some of the people in my hometown. Midnight, anticipating me coming home, my mother tells me he did this. He went upstairs in his panter outfit. He went to my mother's sheet drawer, for she has one. He took out a double white sheet, he placed that over his head, he went out into their garden, and he hid in a bush. With a view to giving me, his then 40-year-old son, a bit of a scare. Presumably, my mother is so sick of his shit, she decided not to tell him something that she full well knew, that on that occasion, I'd stayed over at a friend's house.
Well done. OK, let's spin the wheel again. The next subject is class. Who wants to come in on that? Simon.
Class, yes. This is a society. Our country is a society riven by class. I was very much aware of this when I lived in Brixton for many years. Yeah, exactly. No, seriously, the streets of Brixton are littered with homeless people, vagrants, derelicts of one kind or another. It's very distressing if you're trying to pursue a middle-class path. And you become... And I, you know, and I could blink of myself to them when I was a young man, but when I had children, it became more difficult. Certainly, if we had a three-wheeler, we could get over most of them, but it slowed you down. And it would puzzle me why they were there, to be honest, because, I mean, you know, homelessness is very sad, but why, if you're homeless, would you choose to stay in Brixton? The one advantage of being homeless is you can choose where you live. A couple of hours walk, you could be in the countryside. A couple of vouchers out of the Daily Mail, you could be in the south of France by the weekend. Pick up some cheap booze on the ferry. They like a drink, don't they, the homeless, as a rule? I don't want to tar them all with the same brush. Although if you sleep on the road, that will happen sooner or later. I do think it's a bit ironic the favourite drink of the homeless should be a beer called Tennant's.
OK, that leaves us with Mickey. Let's see what you've been left with. Let's spin the wheel. And subject is fashion.
Now, I'll tell you about fashion. Now, a few years ago, I was looking for a new image. So I started going on stage like this, thinking that'll create an image for me. They'll go, "You've seen the geezer, stunning looking. Where's his top button done?" Right? But I subsequently found out the image this tends to create is you're a wanker. So I looked into the whole issue of it, and I'll tell you the situation with the shirt button, OK? So, because the people don't really thought of like that, they tend to undo their top button. There we go. It's better, isn't it? However, it's not enough. Still a bit too high. Still a bit of tension in the room. What you really want is one more. Watch. See that? It's palpable, isn't it? Everyone's going, whoa, thank God for that. That is the level of buttonage we require from a man going out for the evening to the all bar one. Very good. However, if I go one more, I'm suddenly back to being an arsehole again. How tough is it being a man knowing that you're going through life only ever one button away from being a wanker or an arsehole?
There you go. Well done, all of you. The points there. And go to Simon and Mickey. Come on, let's sit down. OK, here we go. Let's spin the wheel. The first subject is modern living. Who wants to come in on that? Holly.
I recently changed where I live. I moved house, and I've moved to one of those areas that I think a lot of Britain is like this. It's sort of nice in some areas and a bit scuzzy in other areas. It's sort of place where if you see a white tent on the side of the road, you're not quite sure if it's a crime scene or a farmer's market. When I bought it, my parents came to visit me, and they gave me the most middle-class moving-in present you can give anyone. They gave me a visitor's book. Which is really sweet, right? But I live in a one-bedroom flat in Peckham. If you come and stay with me, you have to stay in my bed. And I'm not sure I want those people signing a book with a comments box. People seem to celebrate in really odd ways now. People are really into fancy dress. That used to be a really American thing, but, like, the British are really getting into it. Like, I hate fancy dress. I absolutely hate it. I've had some bad experiences. I once went to a Halloween party dressed as the Grim Reaper. That's a pretty common, you know, choice of costume. The only trouble is, I got the wrong address. I mean, it was bad for me, even worse for the old lady who opened the door. Found a harbinger of death standing there apologising for being early. With a bottle of Archers.
Thank you very much, well done, Holly. OK, let's spin the wheel again. And the subject is weather.
You do it. I'll do it. I've got this. Weather is one of the things that shows that the British people are great big Jessies. Not the British people, actually. No, there's a split here. When it snows, Scottish people do this. Oh, look, love. Snow. See you later. English people go, oh, God! It is the end of day! When it snowed last year, the BBC were going, don't go out! out! It's -2! We don't know if humans can live at that temperature! There are men made of snow with outstretched arms waiting for you! Go, go! And the news always talks us up. We're always woefully underprepared, woefully underprepared. Where's the salt? Where's the salt? Where's the salt? Look, we're never going to run out of salt in this country. As long as supermarkets continue to do value meals, we'll be fine, right? Fling a few lasagnas up the M1, you'll be grand. Don't worry about it. Chinese meal for 2, good for 40 miles, I should think, which won't be a problem. We massively overplay this. The news are the worst at it. Sky News, I was watching Sky News on the day after it snowed, the day of the lethal compacted ice. Reporting from a rural spa where supplies were running low. And in an attempt to ramp up the tension, the reporter genuinely said this phrase, "This place is down to its last pack of croissants." Oh, God, the humanity! Forced to eat pain au chocolat!
Thank you very much, Chris. Well done. OK, that leaves us with Milton. Let's see what you've been left with. Let's spin the wheel. And the topic is careers.
At college, I studied agriculture and communications, specialising in sheep. In the end, I came out with a BAA. After that, I set up the British Sheep Census, but I fell asleep halfway through that. At the end of the day, my dad always goes around pulling out all the plugs and turning out all the lights, very safety conscious. Why he got the sack from air traffic control. My nephew, when he grows up, he wants to be an accountant. So for his birthday, I bought him a great big bag of receipts. I said, listen, don't worry if you don't like them. I've kept all the presents. You know, when you're a pirate and you work mainly canals, annoying, isn't it, when you try and get one of your enemies to walk the plank? They just run off down the towpath. Mind you, the state of the towpath near us, I wouldn't touch it with...
OK, points at the end round. Go to Milton and Chris. Come on, sit back down. OK, here we go. The first subject is... kids. Who wants to come in on that?
Ah, sweet.
Ebra.
Sorted. Know about this now. Ah, yes, kids. I became a dad 9 months ago. And I haven't let it change my life completely in that... Well, the one thing I'm worried about is I don't want to be one of those people who prefaces a statement with the phrase, speaking as a parent... Speaking as a parent. Gather round, everyone. He's speaking as a parent now. Quick, come in. No, bring in the people from the other room. He's speaking as a parent. No, he was only speaking as an arsehole before. Now he's speaking as a parent. Yes, oh, sage one, speak. Tell us your wisdom. Impart your knowledge. Speaking as a parent. Doesn't it make you want to stab them as a maniac? Because the thing is, you read the books. There's loads of books you can buy on being a parent. That's why, there's millions of books, in fact. That's why I get really annoyed when people use that excuse for their bad parenting. They always come, oh, well, you know, kids, they don't come with an instruction manual, do they? No, you have to buy one. They're like £7. But with the books, one thing the books warned me about, it hasn't turned out to be a problem. Books warn me that sometimes the man can become jealous of the affection the woman gives the child. I've not had... The only issue I've had in that direction is that when I burp, I get frowned at, and when he does it, he gets a round of applause. That's not fair. So why is his wind so much more important and exciting than mine? My wife has spent anything up to an hour trying to get wind out of him. Will she pull my finger? No, she will not.
Thank you very much, Jack. OK, let's spin the wheel again. The subject is travel. Who is coming that? Adam.
Yeah. I'd like to say something, and in particular because Stewart Francis is here, I love Canada. I love Canada. Because Canadians are normally the politest, quietest people on the planet. The first time I went to Canada, I went to Toronto. And in Toronto, they had, at that point, the world's tallest tower, and they were half an hour from Niagara Falls. Not one person boasted about it. If I'd landed in an American city with the world's tallest tower, it would have been, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Boston, home of the world's tallest building! The only reason I knew it was in Canada was that I went to the hotel reception and went, oh, what should I do today? And the guy went, oh, maybe check out the CN Tower. Oh, really? Why's that? Oh, no reason. I just think you might like it. I got to the top, and it wasn't even a big thing. It was just a little plaque that went, CN Tower, world's tallest building. And I went back to him that night and went, it's the world's tallest building. And he went, oh, yeah, that's right. I thought you might like it. How do you feel about waterfalls? The thing I love the most about Canada, though, is that they have Braille on their banknotes. I don't know if you know that. All Canadian money has Braille on it, so that blind people know how much money they're giving over at any given point in time. What an amazing country. They're bilingual, they have same-sex marriages, and they have Braille on their banknotes. Canada is the only place in the world in which two blind French lesbians can get married and pay for it in cash.
Thank you very much, I've OK, that leaves us with Stewart. Let's see what topic you've been left with. Let's spin the wheel. It's romance.
That was terrific, by the way, Adam.
Oh, thank you, Stu.
You're welcome. Ladies, in bed, I like to spoon. Anybody else do heroin? Am I guilty of being romantic? You be the judge. A bottle of champagne on ice, the dulcet voice of Luther Vandross fills the air. A trail of rose petals lead to a bed on which I'm lying naked. Bedroom door slowly opens and I whisper those three special words. Happy birthday, Dad. When women see me naked, they say I look like a Greek god. Hermaphrodite? What's he, I like my women the way I like my skis, rented. With a little wax on their bottom. I'm a very lucky man. I have an amazing wife who has given me 3 incredible blowjobs. Romance.
Thank you very much. And the points go to Animal. Go on, OK, here we go. Let's spin the wheel. Television. Who wants to come in on television?
I'll take that one.
Andy.
Very good. OK, so I'm getting a bit fed up with how much reality TV shows are on at the moment. Like, The Only Way is Essex really just did my noodle in. The fact that they won a BAFTA. I mean, that's what for? Best foreign language film? Do you know what I mean? Like, you can just imagine it. Oh, shut up, oh, shut up, oh, shut up, oh, shut up. And then underneath it just says, I'm incredulous at what you've just said. And then, you know, thank God now X Factor's moved away from the audition stages, torturing those poor people. You know, you watch them rock up in the early stages. Hello, what's your name? Gonorrhea! All right, lovely. And what's that you're wearing? Oh, it's a waistcoat I've knitted from my own pubes. All right, lovely. And the weird thing about X Factor is it's making bigger stars of the judges than the contestants. You know, like I was watching Cheryl Cole on Piers Morgan's Life Stories, and I got really angry because I was listening to her talking about being in Africa and my fight with malaria. And I got so angry, and then I remembered malaria is a disease. It's not the name of another toilet attendant she's been kicking the shit out of. This. Look, if she likes hitting black people so much, maybe she should go out with Chris Brown, see how that works out for her.
Thank you very much, Andy. OK, let's spin the wheel again. Subject is hospitals. Who wants to come in on? Miles.
Hospitals. I can understand why some people think that they're a good idea. I really dislike them. I think hospitals are terrifying places to be. I've had several general anaesthetics over the last years. I'm terrified of all of these things. I think hospitals, they are basically they are grey buildings full of people who are dead, about to be, overworked, stressed out, or asking for change for the car parking facilities. That's all they... I can't understand, therefore, why, even now, even today, we have this thing where the idea that a nurse's uniform is considered sexy. Now, I've got no doubt whatsoever that lots and lots of nurses themselves... I should imagine some of them unbelievable creatures. But the idea... But the idea that the outfit itself is sexy. And yet, if you wander into a sex shop, either, deliberately or, you might have some sort of job that involves touring, you've constantly got to go and ask directions in places. Still, people are buying nurses' uniforms as a sexy outfit. What is sexy about a nurse's uniform? Surely a nurse's uniform, that just screams hospital at you. Who's at home going, oh, I'll tell you what, darling, could you dress up as a nurse for me tonight? You dress up as a nurse. I want you to remind me of the time I had a length of my bowel removed. Would you do that for me? Would you? Of course. Go on, I'll tell you what, when you put that on, act like a naughty nurse. Go on, act like a naughty nurse. A naughty nurse is one that doesn't wash their hands. That smothers you with a pillow, having subtly encouraged you to alter your own will.
Thank you very much, Mike. OK, that leaves us with Milton. Let's see what you can offer. Let's spin the wheel. It's travel. Away you go.
Keep Britain tidy. Chop off Norfolk and Cornwall. People from New Zealand don't like being called Australian, do they? Oh, no. What people from Britain don't realise is an entirely separate culture. There's a great big sea between the two places. What people from New Zealand don't realise is that we in Britain don't care. I've just come back from Holland. When I was there, I was in a fish restaurant, and the bloke on the table next to me began to cough, so I ignored him. Then he began to cough a bit more, so I still ignored him. Then he began to choke really, really badly, so in the end, I stood up and I smacked him on the back really hard. Anyway, it turns out he was just speaking Dutch. That works with Welsh as well. You have to admire the Dutch, because what they've done, right, is legalise drugs, and now there are far fewer people in prison. I suppose the next step is to legalise murder. There'll be far, far fewer people in general. Sometimes, though, it's difficult to know if you remember something or you remember the photograph of something. I think my earliest memory is of being in America, standing over an air vent and my skirt billowing up. Myself a very thank you.
Well done. Points there to Milton Jones. Come on back.